All right. So, have you ever wondered why in the wedding scene at any show, and in any movie, in anything, it always begins, "Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today." Have you thought maybe like as a kid I used to think that was weird because the church I grew up in never did that. It would never like mostly because the pastor that we had he would just kind of riff. Like he didn't really follow even sermon outlines all that closely. He just kind of did his own thing. And so whenever we went to a wedding at our church, they would not do that. No, none of that dearly beloved thing. And so I used to think it was so weird. I thought it was just like a joke. I thought it was something where over time, you know how in media they would just start referencing things. It just becomes a media trope or becomes like a film trope or something, that the season finale of like the third or fourth season of a sitcom has a wedding in it, and they get up to the altar, "Dearly beloved," and gets to the, "If any of you have any reason why these two ought not be joined, speak now or forever hold your peace," right? And then somebody would do whatever, and they would have that awkward moment and then cut, "To be continued. We'll pick it up at the season premiere in 6 months." I used to think that was so weird. Like, why are they doing that? Why is it every time? It's because of this. This is called the Book of Common Prayer. There's hundreds of different editions. It took me a while to find this one. This is the 1928 Anglican. If you like what would happen in ancient times when there was rules and standards, when you became a member of a church or you've completed your seminary training, one or the other, possibly both if you're of different kinds, they would give you this text as a part of your membership. Sometimes this would be like in the pew, and you'd be like, "Hey, go and take that, and we'll replace it." And so in here is all of the guiding texts for ministers to go through those processes. And because weddings used to be a lot more informal, kind of family, church affairs, anybody could marry anybody. Usually it would be the minister, but if you're in a really small or very rural community or things like that, it would be the patriarch of the family. So, like, let's say I have a daughter, she's marrying some dude. I would give her away, and my dad would preside over the ceremony if a minister is not available, right? Or if you were like, and we've kind of structured that a lot more recently. Nowadays, like, you have to be the captain of a ship, or um, obviously any minister, a affect of state, so judges and anyone who has authority like that, a senator or a governor, they have usually the ability, or a mayor, they usually have the ability to preside over a wedding. But that's kind of the end of the line. If you, like, let's say you have a family member of yours that wants to do your wedding, they have to actually get ordained to do so. But anyway, this is the thing. The reason, partially as well, that every family would have one of these in possession is that this is full of things like liturgies. If you don't know what a liturgy, it's kind of a outline of a sermon that the congregation and the minister would recite together. This has the guidelines for catechism. This has and confession. It has the directions on how to figure out what Easter will fall on, because Easter tends to kind of float, the guide ship for how to determine where that will land. It has different kind of guidance texts and meditation texts for every Sunday between Advent, which is just before Christmas, to uh, Pentecost, which is after Easter. It has meditations and guidance for helping someone through the mourning process if they've lost someone, has last rites. This copy even has the Psalms in it. But what this would do is it would standardize what people are learning throughout the week as well as every Sunday. What would happen is, because it's set to, like, there's a specific meditation for Christmas Day, a specific one for the week, the Sunday prior to Christmas Day and everything. And you would come in, either you would bring this or it would be in the pew, and because it's the last Sunday before Christmas, you would flip straight open to it, and the minister would read his part and you would read your part, and you would follow along, and everyone is on the same page. Because technology didn't exist back then for there to be verses projected onto the wall behind the minister for everyone to see, right? And they didn't have even like the little plastic overhead thing, because electricity didn't exist yet this is the 1928, but it's just kind of a repub of the 1886. 1886, there's no electricity anywhere. They used gas lamps and wood fires. So it was a standardization tool. If I was to move, like let's say it's 1849 and I want to go west to kind of test my fortunes in California, when it's time for me to go with the group or the caravan of settlers or whatever, the minister would give me this as the patriarch of my household that's going, and it would be expected that there's a mornings and evenings guidance. So like in the morning you would read the devotion, and in the evening you'd read the devotion. It would be expected. My responsibility as a father or as a husband is to go through those every day with my family. My responsibility would be to teach my kids how to pray. I would be expected to teach them, because obviously expecting when I arrive there in California, assuming that I do, there's not going to be a church waiting for me. It's a bunch of mining towns and things. So it's my responsibility to lead spiritually in my own house. And that if we do manage to find a church, great, but that would be an asset to what I'm already responsible for. It would not take the place of my responsibility. And that's something our society has significantly lost hold of throughout history, especially in the modern age of smartphones and tablets and the internet. Is if you want your kids to learn or to be educated, you have to the expectation is to send them to the professional teachers. And if you want them to be spiritually discipled, you send them to the professional pastors. And if you want them to be athletically capable, you send them to the professional coaches, and just so whatever. And so the question then becomes, what is a parent's role in the society? And quite honestly, for the most part, it's the get out of the way. We don't want you involved. With school programming and school bureaucracies taking more and more measures that they don't need your parents' approval to give you medical treatment, to give you to teach you whatever. Just like they don't even attempt to seek parental approval of their curriculums, their syllabuses. It's just business as normal for parents to not be involved at all. And that's wrong. That's backwards. That is not how it was meant to be. As and coming from me, like I've been in youth ministry, student ministries, junior high, high school, college, children pastor, all this. I've done this for a while, and I've been through the whole thing of that. No, like that just leave it to the professionals versus no, we need to have parents involved. I've been through all those different conversations, and what I've seen in the Bible is that you have like Deuteronomy 6, where it's the parents, the fathers are implored to teach their kids when they're sitting down, when they're laying down, when they're going out, when they're coming in, when they're walking along the road. It's the dad's job. And that the primary qualification for an elder in the New Testament, Titus, Timothy, is that he is faithful to his wife, leads her spiritually, and that he is his responsibilities with his own household are maintained first. If those things are not cared for, then he's not qualified. Because literally it says that if he hasn't done that stuff, then how is he going to manage the household of God if he hasn't managed his household at home? So we need to get back to that. And so that's what I'm working on, that I have one, and that I hope that it'll encourage others out there to pursue the same thing. I mean, you don't have to go to the length of finding a copy of the Book of Common Prayer, but there's so many great resources that are similar out there. It would be good also for you to get some familiarity with things like classic hymnals and with some of the old confessions of faith, like the Heidelberg Catechism, Westminster Confession of Faith, just some of that stuff, because there's so much good in it, and that if it's in you, it'll eventually spill over to the people around you that are most important, the ones that you care about the most as well.